All right, we are live, and give me a moment to go live on Instagram. Something I've been meaning to do. Let's see if it's gonna work. uh, I don't think it's working. Let me try again. Let's see, and you can see the topic right there. So, natural Ozempic. This is basically going to be a continuation of our last 2 3 weeks talking about GLP-1 drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy. So if you have not watched that one, make sure you're going back to our channels to stay updated on the latest information on these weight loss drugs. This is going to be a great conclusion because we're going to talk about alternatives that are natural to Ozempic. How do you lose weight naturally? If you've watched the last two or three lives where we talked about the risks and benefits of weight loss drugs, I did try to be unbiased. I know there's going to be people who are still going to be using these drugs, but if you're taking the drug, this live is going to be great to learn what you need to do to get when you get to your or close to your ideal weight and you want to come off the drug. You don't want to go back. You don't want to start gaining weight that um, you lost. And that's very important because most of the drugs, these weight loss drugs, people are finding that once they stop it, all the weight comes back very fast. Along with the fact that when they are taking it, they tend to get results, but they may eventually plateau and no longer see results. So this is going to be a great live to be able to know how to naturally boost GLP-1 hormone in our bodies so that we can have a successful weight loss plan, whether you're on the drug or not on the drug. It looks like, oh, I'm not able to go live on, let me see, Instagram. Wait, it might be working. I guess, all right, it just had to take a few minutes. All right, so we're live on Instagram, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and we are ready to start. And as always, those of you who are watching, I always encouraging you not to be shy. Let us know you're in the chat room. I do these lives for a reason. The point is that I'm not just a talking head, but I want this to be a conversation. If you have questions, to have a physician's support, okay? One thing I do forget to do during our lives is to introduce who I am. Some people may not know me if you're watching for the first time. So I'm a family medicine physician assistant specializing in diabetes reversal. We do these lives every Monday to promote information on diabetes reversal. But the great thing is the approach that we use, a whole food plant-based diet, is beneficial for every chronic disease there is, whether you have high blood pressure, whether you have high cholesterol, kidney disease, liver disease, you're looking to fight or prevent cancer. We touch it all on using lifestyle and food as medicine, right? All right, so hey Jenny, thank you for not being shy. All right, so anyone else who doesn't want to be shy, let us know you're in the chat room. Okay, so we're going to be talking about natural ways to boost Ozempic in our bodies. Sorry, boost GLP-1 in our bodies. All right, and allowing food to be our natural Ozempic. We're going to talk about. It's going to be a short live because it's going to be short and to the point. Make sure you're sharing this if you have anybody who is struggling to lose weight. They're trying medications or diets and they're failing. I think we're going to share some really important information for anybody who's looking to get to an ideal weight and who's struggling with that. Okay, so make sure you share this video with them. What else? Yes, another thing before we get started. Most of our live events are going to have a link for anyone who wants a free consultation for coaching. So sometimes knowing and doing, right, is two different things. I know what to do, but I'm struggling on putting it together. That's why we have a coaching program. We put together a coaching program to help you through the pitfalls, some of the gaps between knowledge and action, and helping you put together an actionable plan, something that actually works to help you come off diabetes medications, lower your A1C, normalize your blood sugar levels and your weight with the help of a health professional. So if you're looking for some more support, then check the links in our description section in this video, and you'll be able to sign up and schedule for a free consultation. I'll also go ahead and put it in the chat. That's something I always forget to do. Probably going to try to start doing, making it easier for people who are looking for coaching support. So there's the link in the chat. So don't forget to use that if you are a person who's needing more support in your health journey. We offer free consultations. Usually takes about 30 to 40 minutes to cover your health history and see if our program works for you. Okay. Any other homework to do? I think that's about it. So we can get started. Like I said, it's not going to be very long, but I do have some really important information on how to boost our levels of the GLP-1 hormone. By now, hopefully, you know what the hormone is, how it works, to suppress our appetite and slow digestion, so we feel fuller longer. The great thing is this is a natural hormone. It's a hormone our body actually creates. So let's go right into it. What is a natural way to boost it in our body other than drugs? All right. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. I think I'll do it like this. Let's see. All right. We'll do it like that. All right. So just a few slides we'll go through. Okay. Again, ask questions. You have if you have questions now. This is the best time to get um, some good advice when it comes to your weight loss journey. All right. So let's present this. Do I present this on full screen? All right. Okay. So ileal break. That's where we're going to start. So the the way that our body produces GLP-1 hormone naturally is through the presence of food way down low in our GI tract. So if you look at the stomach, right, it's higher in the digestive tract. As we eat food, right, goes through our stomach, goes through a churning, digesting process that continues in the intestines, going from the small intestines, right, to the lower third and into the colon, the lower part of our intestines, and in the beginning and in our throughout our colon, we have what is called L cells. These are specialized cells that produce GLP-1 hormone. So as we eat, as once the food gets down to the lower part of our intestines, so hopefully you can see this. You might need to make the screen big as possible, but when you get to the lowest part of your intestines, that's when GLP-1 hormone is starting to be produced. All right. So what is the problem? Why can't we get enough to stimulate us to stop eating, right? Because that's what the GLP-1 hormone does, is to get us to stop eating, but it doesn't seem to be working with our current obesity epidemic. Why is that, right? So the problem is to really two things. One, highly refined, highly processed food take away fiber, and what happens is by the time the food, right, what's left gets to the lower intestines, the bulk of what you're eating, right, what ends up as stool, all the calories have been absorbed. So the problem with highly refined, highly processed foods, I think of Wonder Bread, right? That has no fiber in it. Think of the highly refined, even whole wheat. You know, it's powderized wheat, right? It gets absorbed very quickly. So by the time it exits the stomach, it's making its way down the digestive tract. But before it can get to the lower part of your intestines, what's called the ileum or the ileal brake, think of it like a little brake pedal to get you to stop eating. It says it, there's no calories because your body has absorbed the calories before it got to the end of the intestines. You may think this is a poor design. Why did God design us that way? Like, this doesn't make sense, but there seems like a faulty design. But it's because we were designed to eat fiber. We were designed to eat plant-based foods. When you eat fiber, and when you eat foods rich in fiber, what fiber does, think of fiber as a ship. This is the best way to describe it to me for me. It's like a ship that's carrying the calories down the intestines, right? And by the time the ship fiber reaches the ileum, the ileal brake system, right? The gut bacteria has eaten away at the ship so much, right, that the calories are finally released. So the fiber takes a long time to be digested because what fiber is basically the plant wall structure. That's why fiber is only found in plants. So the plant wall structure, this ship, right, is hard to digest, right? So the digestive system is working on breaking down this ship so it could release the calories inside the ship, right? Once the cell wall structure is broken down, the calories are released. By the time that happens, the ship, the fiber, has reached the lower parts of your intestines and released the calories to stimulate the cells in that lower part of your intestines to tell the brain to stop working. It's a very sophisticated machinery, but it makes sense in a world or an environment where plants are our predominant food source, because it gives time for plants to shuttle their way down our whole digestive tract. By the time that food gets to the last part of the lower part of your intestines, now hormones are being stimulated to tell your mouth to close. But when you take the fiber out, right, there is no ship. The food is stripped of what slows its digestion. It's quickly absorbed before it gets to the lower part of your intestines, and so there's no message sent to the brain that you ate. Think of eating a donut. How many donuts can you go through, right? Like, I don't know about you, I can eat a lot of donuts in one sitting, right? The reason why you can eat highly refined foods is because very fast without feeling full, is because they are absorbed before they get to the lower part of your intestines to access or step on that brake pedal to tell you stop eating. Okay, by the time you finish eating that food, right, there's not much message to the brain that you ate at all. That's why certain foods you get to eat and eat and eat. It takes a long time to get your brain to catch up that you are full. Okay. Hey, Sharonda. Sorry, uh, Shardine. Shardine. Sorry, butchered your name there. Thank you for watching from Infield. And if you have questions, definitely let us know. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. To me, this kind of explains everything, right? How we need to produce GLP-1 hormone naturally is to find foods that are rich in fiber, that is plant-based foods, to to produce this hormone, this appetite satisfying hormone, right? Appetite satisfying hormone. So refined foods can do it. What else can do it? Actually, refined foods keep us from getting satisfied because of the lack of fiber. What else keeps us from being satisfied is animal-based foods. So the opposite of plant foods. Animal-based foods don't have fiber, right? So there's no cellular structure in meat, dairy, eggs, and cheese to slow its absorption into our body. So it's quickly absorbed as it exits our stomach before it gets to the lower intestines. The fat is released, the carbohydrates, sugar is released, and there's not much stimulation of the appetite suppression system. Okay, so that's kind of more of an introduction. So how another way that fiber works, so we just not just to shuttle the calories down the intestines, but also to trap them, so to speak. So they call it a gelling effect. When you have foods that have a lot of fiber in them, they gel up the calories. Essentially, there's a lot of calories are not absorbed at all. Right. So going back to the donut, if you're eating a donut, if you really can't stop eating donuts, I like donut once in a while, right? um, then make sure you're having fiber before or after the meal, because the fiber, as long as there's fiber present in the digestive system while you're eating, while the donut is being eaten, some of that fiber ship, right, is going to carry pieces of that donut through your intestines so they're not absorbed. Isn't that cool, right? So eat fiber. That's key number one, right? Another reason why fiber is so important also is because fiber feeds our gut bacteria and produces a very important hormone called short chain fatty acids. These short chain fatty acids then have another part to play in helping us feel satisfied. So as our digestive tract, right, is experiencing a rush of these hormones, these short chain fatty acids. These short chain fatty acids are making their way to the brain to tell us to stop eating. Okay, so that's another way that the fiber can work to help us feel satisfied, feel full, the same way weight loss drugs do. All right, because of the fact that it's shuttling the calories down to access the ileal brake, but also because it produces, when the ship is broken down by through the digestive tract, it produces short chain fatty acids, which is another hormone like GLP-1, right, that helps us to feel satisfied. All right, are you with me? Hopefully you're with me. All right, let me know if you have questions on that. There is where there are ways that we can actually produce more GLP-1. There are certain foods that are really good at producing more GLP-1. Okay. So this is where you really want to take note if you are a person who wants to lose weight without drugs. Okay. So let's go through it. So obviously, inside the first thing is going to be eating more plant-based foods, and it's not really all or nothing, right? I like the way some people put it. They call it walling off your calories. So let's say you're not willing to go fully whole food plant-based. That's something we do recommend on this channel. Um, if you're not willing to go fully whole food, plant-based, or vegan, then try to increase your consumption of fiber-rich foods, your whole grains, beans, greens. And I would say if you're looking for a ratio, maybe 75 to 80% of your plate every time you eat, right? Make sure you're walling off your calories. So the foods that are highest in calorie density are going to be your meat, dairy, eggs, and cheese, your animal foods. Refined carbs are also going to be pretty easy to absorb, so they're not going to get to the ileal break. But if you're eating fiber, especially if 80 I would encourage you to look at your plate and try to look at it and say about 20% of it is going to be your meat, your animal foods, right? Or maybe a refined carb. And the other 80% is going to be a plant-based food, right? If you could design your food this way, you're walling off your calories so that you can produce more GLP-1 hormone regardless of what you're eating. Okay. So wall off your calories, eat. If you can't get 100% plant-based, get, I would say, at least 80% plant-based. All right. As frequently as possible, as many meals throughout the day as possible. Then you're gonna be able to increase your GLP-1 hormone production. Okay. Um, so other than that, there are certain foods that can really stimulate this hormone and get you to produce more of this appetite suppressing hormone. One of those is vinegar, right? So vinegar, I'm sure we probably heard apple cider vinegar is good, for a weight loss regimen. The reason this is, and this not just apple cider vinegar, but even any vinegar-based dressing like balsamic vinegar, vinaigrette. Um, um, the reason why this works so well is because the acetic acid, right? Essentially, what vinegar is, when it's neutralized in our body as we consume it, it produces acetate, and acetate is a free short chain fatty acid. So this short chain fatty acid is produced as we consume vinegar, right? So you're naturally boosting your GLP-1 hormone, and the way that the short chain fatty acids help us to lose weight is not just because it produces the hormone GLP-1, but also because it literally signals your brain. The hormone itself signals your brain to slow down, and in your eating. So that's a really simple trick, right? We could all sneak some of that in there. All right, JJ, what's up? What's up? What's up? The rest of you guys watching, I urge you to ask questions because this is the last night we're talking about GLP-1 hormone and Ozempic drugs. We've been talking on 2-3 weeks, and I'm ready to move on to new topics. All right, but the fact that you guys don't have questions is a good thing to me. And it means maybe I'm a really good teacher, and you guys really get it. All right, so this is a study that's really interesting, and with vinegar, right? This is probably, of all the methods to boost GLP-1, is probably and to lose weight, is probably the one that's most known. But this was an interesting study they did with a group of men, Japanese men of the same weight, right? So they compared a group of people with the same weight, right? And for 12 weeks they gave them 2 cups of a daily beverage, containing either 3 teaspoons of vinegar, 6 teaspoons of vinegar, or no vinegar at all. And both the 3 teaspoons and the 6 teaspoons both experienced both those groups experienced a significant loss in weight and body fat mass, as well as a drop in their triglyceride levels, which is really good for heart disease protection. So it doesn't take much, right? Just 3 to 6 teaspoons a day in a drink of like 2 cups of water or whatever you want to do. That's a great hack. All right, that's our first hack to boost GLP-1 hormone in our body, right? That's right, JJ. It's a fantastic thing, man. Lente. Anyone know what that word means? Lente. You may think it means lentils, but Lente actually means slow or slow digestion. Okay, so lente carbs. We want to introduce to our body daily, our digestive tract daily, carbs that are very slow to digest. So when you're thinking about carbs that are very slow to digest, you're thinking just like I have it on the screen: sprouted grains, oat groats, and legumes. These are three very slow digesting carbs, right? Now notice what I don't have on the screen. I don't have whole grain bread or your whole wheat bread, right? Most people think, "Oh yeah, I'm eating whole grain. I'm eating a slow digesting carb because it's brown bread, right? It's wheat bread." But wheat bread or whole grain, what's labeled as whole grain, it's still digested too quick to produce a spike or to significantly affect our GLP-1 hormone level. Think about it, right? When you look at that bread, it's powdered down flour. It's still, even though there's pieces of whole grain in there, it's been so chopped up and refined into powder that when you eat it and it exits your stomach, it's digested, absorbed before it gets to the lower ileal brake, the lower part of our intestines. And so there's not much GLP-1 hormone produced with your typical eat whole wheat, whole grain breads. All right. So sprouted grains can do the trick. Oat groats, when you think about I just not just oat groats, but barley groats, rye. A groat is basically the shell. Includes a whole grain, right? The shell and all. You could tell, right? Maybe not from this picture, but you could tell that this is going to take a long time to digest. You just feel it in your hand, and it's so hard, right? So if you're eating oatmeal, try to up your game up and buy oat groats. Okay. Legumes, another thing that is very slow to digest, so it's definitely going to get to the end of your intestines and access that ileal brake system and producing GLP-1 hormone. Beans is probably the easiest of the three options on the screen right here to obtain and to use daily. Okay. Just let's share some studies, as we always do, and like to prove what we say. So, a study published in NIH showed that a group of healthy adults who were eating, I think they did, yeah, barley groats in the evening, and they tested 16 hours, a 16-hour period, what would happen to their food intake and their GLP-1 hormones. So, an evening meal including barley groats, right, produced a boost, a spike in GLP-1 by 43% above what their baseline was. So that's pretty good, right? Just one meal boosted their GLP-1 production by 43%. This led to eating less food at breakfast compared to their baseline, and 100 fewer calories even at lunch. So from the evening meal, being that it was such a slow digesting carb, it affected how much they ate at breakfast next day and at lunch the following afternoon, right? So that's pretty interesting. That's pretty significant, right? Um, and then I think JJ, well, let me read your comment. You always have a lot of insightful things to share. Okay, one caveat JJ would like to share about vinegar is that it's not excellent for people with a histamine intolerance or mast cell activation syndrome. It can cause a reaction. But once the gut inflammation calms down, and DAO production is resumed after getting rid of processing chemicals, vinegar should be a good big help. So I don't think that a lot of people would probably have a problem with that, but thank you for sharing that for sure. That's something worth noting if you fall into that category, for sure. All right, the rest of us, I think vinegar should be okay. One thing too, though, if you do want to distill it though, you don't want to take straight vinegar. That's going to erode your teeth. You don't want to do that. Aside from the fact that it's nasty. Yeah, then, yeah, there's another study on groats. I think they did barley groats in this study. A different study showing the effect on 3 days of eating barley groats, and on the fourth day, their GLP-1 hormone level had increased by 56%. So I hope we're seeing in these studies that these medications aren't your only hope. Okay, so if you're trying to find alternatives, especially cheaper ones, these medications aren't your only hope. There are some things we can do to boost this hormone in our body naturally. All right. Thylakoids, sorry, is going to be, I believe, our last hack. Okay, so what is thylakoid? Thylakoid is basically nothing. It's just a fancy way of saying leafy greens. So the chlorophyll rich membranes of these leaves, leafy greens. Sorry, can't talk. Leafy greens. The membrane that produces chlorophyll, right? It actually protects the plant from digestion. It's something that makes it hard. The membrane makes it hard to be digested, so it's a slow digesting food. Okay, and so as you eat, thinking of kale or spinach, right? Anything that's green and leafy, as you eat it, it takes a long time to digest. So that's going to activate your ileal brake. It's going to get to the lower part of your intestines to stimulate the production of GLP-1. Another great thing about leafy greens is that they also trap fat. They're very good, as we go back to that ship analogy of fiber, shuttling calories down our intestines, they shuttle fat very well. So if you have a fatty meal or you've had fat throughout the day, eating greens is a great way to make sure some of that fat is actually not absorbed. Okay, so very good at that, to reduce the absorption of and the digestion of fat in our diet. So here's a study. We'll share a couple studies. This study here, what they did is they had people have a half cup of cooked spinach, and they did this in a clever way. So the best types of studies are the studies that you can kind of use some of like placebo effect. Sorry, you could keep them from having that placebo effect, because sometimes just knowing that you're eating something healthy, you're going to eat less. So they disguised the spinach in jams and juices, so you didn't know for sure if you were getting the spinach or not. Okay, so the group that had the spinach had less hunger, right, more satiety, so they felt full throughout the day. They also reported cravings for sweet, salty, and fatty snacks, the things we love, dropped by a third. Okay, keeping in mind that they didn't know they were having spinach. Okay, they hid it among the group subjects. And the group subjects that were forced to eat candy reported that they reported liking the sweetness significantly less, those who had the spinach. So it even, that just makes sense, right? So if you have higher levels of GLP-1 hormone in your bloodstream, you're actually going to have less cravings and less satisfaction from the foods that you crave. Okay, so this is a great way to help us deal with food cravings. Eat spinach, eat kale. Whether you're putting in your smoothies or your breakfast, or in a salad, right? Those leafy greens are a great way to deal with food cravings. Okay, so try to fit that into your everyday meal. Another study did this show the similar effect. And this was a group of overweight women, where there was not only weight loss benefits in doing this. I can't remember how long this study lasted. I believe it was a few months, but the cholesterol levels dropped, weight loss was experienced, but more importantly, they saw a decrease in cravings, right? And as with a corresponding rise in GLP-1. So this is definitely worth paying attention to, because what do we struggle with when it comes to weight loss? Is food cravings. If we could just get quiet the food noise, we wouldn't need the drugs, right? If we could, but there are foods that do that for us if we would consume more of them, right? It's almost nature's trick of getting us to walk past the candy and chip aisle and not be so drawn to it. If we've got these foods in our daily diet, I'm confident that we can have more success at quieting the food noise that makes it so hard to stay committed in our weight loss journey. Okay, so very simple, just these 1 2 3 4 food groups I want you to start increasing in your diet, along with, of course, the idea of eating more whole plant-based foods in general. I'd say about 80% of your diet should be plant-based, ideally, right, with a minimal consumption of refined, processed, or animal-based foods. You do this, and this is so effective. I've said this before. The only diet, this is the only diet that has shown that you can eat to your full. So if you're comparing diets where you're trying to, the end goal is to lose weight, most diets require some kind of calorie restriction, right, or food restriction, right? food control. But a whole food plant-based diet requires no a limit on food. If you put people on a whole food plant-based diet, you could tell them to eat till they're literally full and they will lose weight. It's the only diet that works that way. Why? Because there's tricks inside of these plants that get us to lose weight while eating more, right? So eat more of those foods. The groats, the legumes, leafy greens, and go ahead and add a few teaspoons of vinegar. All right. So yeah, and JJ, thank you so much for your comments. Let me go ahead and read them real quick, and then I'll let you guys know how you can follow us if you didn't if you're just joining in. So fun fact on chlorophyll, JJ shares, is used in clinical medicine as an intestinal scrubbing agent. That's awesome. It's like natural soap to clean your pipes out from the gunk that gets stuck in there. Always insightful things. That's great, man. And then lastly, JJ shared, I can say for sure when I significantly increase my greens intake, I do not keep hungry or craving sweets nearly as much as I used to. 100, it's like these things are too sweet to where it's off-putting. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. I experience the same thing. And a lot of us think that, yeah, I do, but it doesn't work for me. But ask yourself, are you eating it every day? Are you eating leafy greens every day? Try to do it every day. Try to do it every day. Okay. And then combine. It's not one or another. Combine all of them. Legumes. If you're doing oatmeal, try to transition to oat groats. Right. Um, there are some healthy food stores that might have groat-based breads, or sprouted bread, right? So I want you guys to think about these natural hacks, and how you could increase your consumption of them day to day, not just for weight loss, but for health. Okay, for health in general. All right. So that's all we have to share. And like I started, I did want to share, if anybody has a desire for coaching, if you need support in your health journey, click on the link in the chat section. We also have the link in the description section of this video, so that we can help you towards your health goals, whether that be to lose weight or come off diabetes medications. All right. So as always, it's a great spending this evening with you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your expertise. JJ, I love having you on there. And Jeannie, and who else had said something? Shardine, thank you so much for joining. As always, beloved, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. We'll see you next week, and we'll be having a special guest. I'll